why would you say that preventative health is a business priority?
Because preventative health is proactive, and it's a proactive way of looking at your population health needs of your team, your people. It's not reactive. So what prevention does is enable you to identify risks, health risks earlier, and do a really good job of managing the long-term well-being of your workforce. And if you enter into that and engage in that really, really well, then you reduce things like absenteeism, sickness, and all those things that have an impact on productivity. I think, lots of businesses invest in having things like private medical insurance, and some of those private medical insurance providers do offer health assessments and health monitoring, but many don't. And I think, quite often what we do is we go to see a doctor or go to look for help when we notice something is wrong. And oftentimes, when you're monitoring your health, there are things that could be happening inside your body that you just don't even know are emerging threats. So that's the beauty of prevention, is that you're monitoring the key health markers that are really important, that enable you just to keep on top of your health and make sure that there's nothing untoward going on. From a 10-year plan perspective, I think the thing that's really important to see is that prevention is now firmly on the agenda. The shift is going to need to be a seismic one. The whole system needs to think differently. We are used to treating for disorder and treating for issues. We are not used to monitoring health and identifying issues early. So normally we'd go to the GP because we found something wrong, not because we've monitored something that stayed green and then a slight emerging issue is showing, for which you could treat much more simply if it were picked up sooner. So this is a real flip on the head. But if we can get society to engage in prevention, then we will be able to shift the way that our NHS currently operates, such that we create prevention as a real, true thing, tangible thing that we get working. And that means we can invest in making sure the right stuff goes to the right people at the right time when they do need treatment for the things that are really, really serious.
I do think we've all got responsibility to take pressure off our NHS and to reverse some of those long-term conditions that we know the NHS is struggling to deal with. So I think we're committed at Bluecrest, but we all need to take responsibility.
Totally agree. Anna, why do you think regular health assessments and health monitoring is a really important thing for us all to be doing?
Yeah, I really do think it's important. That is what is preventative health, taking that proactive approach and getting those insights into our numbers and readings. Why regular monitoring is important is that we can keep an eye on those numbers and see how our adjustment potentially to lifestyle factors and modifications are, having an impact. But I think where regular health assessments are so important as well is we've got the opportunity to pick up things early. And as we know, so many things can lay quite dormant. We might not know that we've got a problem until we get those metrics coming back to us. And of course, the earlier we get those metrics, in most cases, the better prognosis in us being able to change, often in many cases reversing some of those risk factors that we are picking up.
So one of the health risks that's really prevalent is diabetes.
Yeah.
And of course we have lots of really lovely data that we have collected over time, where we've watched what's happened when a customer has one health assessment followed by a second one. Where we've seen people at high risk of diabetes, or with markers that suggest that if they don't do something they're going to get diabetes, and they've then engaged, what impact have we had?
Yeah, so this is a really encouraging marker that we track. So we pick it up through something called HbA1c that gives your average blood sugar, and it's quite indicative if it's raised of type 2 diabetes or the pre-phase of getting diabetes. Our stats actually show a 5.7% reduction now in people's HbA1c between their first and second assessment. So that's great. It's something we really want to change to support people, because diabetes has so many comorbidities later in life. So that's really powerful data. We've also had real success with cholesterol. So again, cholesterol, huge risk factor for cardiovascular disease. And our metrics have shown we've reduced it by a whopping 18.6%.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
So when you start to see that that's what happens when people engage in regular health monitoring, the indicators are super important. And if my memory serves me correctly, there was a study done last year looking at raised cholesterol, and it's linked to things like dementia diagnoses. So this is a really important thing to stay on top of, right? And often something that, if you think you're fit and healthy, you don't even track.
Yeah, and I think this is it, is not to underestimate the basics within a health assessment of your blood pressure, of your biometrics, of your cholesterol and of your diabetes risk, your sugars, because all of those are really being traced to long-term conditions, specifically, well, especially around cardiovascular disease. So really, really important. And if you think the rough figures for a woman is about 50% of our female population have a long-term condition, and this is where preventative health, I really feel, could bring those numbers down going forward.
And of course what we also know is that 77% of people from our own study that we did a year ago are going to work when they are ill. That must have an impact on productivity, right?
Definitely, and this is where, you know, preventative health for these organisations to engage in health assessments, it will definitely financially pay off, as well as doing the right thing in looking after your people that are your biggest asset in an organisation.
Absolutely, and given that 40% of the NHS's investment is for disease that is preventable, prevention has got to be the key to unlock how we change our system, right?
It's got to be, and it's that 40% that we desperately need to, you know, help some of those other conditions that we just can't mitigate risk, and we have got to see, and we've all got to do our bit in changing the tide.
So cardiovascular health, heart health, is a big issue, and we know that that's the biggest killer of population globally, but it's also one of the leading causes of death in the UK. And through the regular health monitoring that we do, we offer some cardiovascular checks. Now, one of them is one that's not routinely offered on the NHS. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you're right. So the core health assessments will look at all those things you would think, such as blood pressure, smoking status, your cholesterol, to look at your risk factors there. But we do offer some additional tests personalised to the customer. We've got two. One is plaque and one is lipoprotein A. So neither of those are regularly offered on the NHS, and they give us such insights into inflammation in our arteries, putting you at risk of disease and stroke. And lipoprotein A is a really good test at showing your genetic predisposition to cardiovascular disease. And whilst you can't reduce your lipoprotein A, you know, if you've got an elevated score, you really need to make a proactive approach and try to reduce other risk factors and live as healthily as possible.
Earlier this year, we launched our Health IQ. So everybody knows what EQ is and everybody knows what IQ is, but we wanted to really understand whether our population in the UK understood the basics of health. So tell me a little bit about our Health IQ and tell me a little bit about what the results told us.
Yeah, it's a really interesting piece of work that we've all enjoyed doing, because we know that the level of health literacy in the UK isn't where it needs to be. So we designed a survey, we got it validated with our clinical panel, and the results have come back actually that the average score for an adult is 57 out of 110 across the UK. We've dived into the data to learn a bit more about different pockets of the UK, but the general message is that as a population, we don't know enough about health and understanding our bodies. And with this is going to be our commitment to get out there and do our thought leadership and our education piece to help give communities and individuals insight into improving their health. So we've talked about the benefits of regular health assessments and our customers coming back to us. So at Bluecrest, we've launched something quite exciting to fill this gap.
We have. So we've launched our Health Monitor product. So what do I mean by that, right? Well, most of our customers that come to Bluecrest buy their package on an annual basis and they come back each year, they book their assessment each year. What we wanted to do was enable those individuals who really care about monitoring their health to engage in that on a more regular basis. So we have the ability now for you to subscribe to our Health Monitor product. What that means is that you get your health assessment, you pay a monthly small subscription amount, and in the middle of the year you can come back for your mid-year health check. That gives you an idea of how you're progressing against some of your core health markers. And in our app, My Wellness, you can start to trend and track whether you've improved or you're not ahead of your next full health assessment. Now, throughout that journey you can personalise, and I think one of the most important things about Health Monitor is that's what it's about enabling now, is that you understand the things that matter to you and you can track the things that matter to you. So that doesn't mean that you have to have a full health assessment at the mid-year mark, but you can maybe track the things that matter. So if you've taken our inflammation test and you've noticed something untoward on that, then you can go back and have another one of those and see whether the changes you've made through diet, exercise, or whatever else you might have done have had an impact. So really encourage people to think about engaging on that on a regular basis, and it's a really affordable way of paying for a health assessment. Much like you do an MOT of your car, you're effectively doing an MOT of your body and staying on top of the things that matter.
Yeah, and I think there's such value in the trending of those metrics, and it's there's financial advantages as well. Isn't there? Not only is cost spread, but there's some discounts.
There are.
That.
So if you sign up to our subscription product, you get 15% off your health assessment, and you get 15% off of any additional tests that you might want to add to your profile in clinic. So, and we also lock that 15% in for your next health assessment too. So yeah, it's financially really worthwhile thinking about doing it that way.
So it's something to really look into.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.